So this was my very first live chat with one of my buddies,
I'm here. Can you hear
Christopher
me?
Yates, and we had technical difficulties right at the onset, and it was basically audio issues, and Chris couldn't hear me. So the first 15 minutes or so in the original live stream,
I'm
I
rolling
had
with the
to
punches here.
type
I'm
out
sorry. Like
questions,
I can
but
barely
then
hear you a little bit. So
somehow
you just
I
tell me what you
tinkered around with the
need.
buttons and finally fixed it. So
I mean, this is how it
everything worked
happens,
out.
right? This is the peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, it's a nice way to put it. So I'm typing, so hopefully he could do this.
Sure, I can intro myself. Can you hear me? That's good. Yeah, I can definitely do that. So, my name is Chris Yates. Pleasure to meet everybody. I am a brand new comic book writer with a Kickstarter that is launching on March 3rd called Marcus Walker Kingslayer Protocol. It is a it is a book that is about a family centered in a world filled with mechs and kaijus, and basically it was a story that me and my team had developed. My team comprises of Simone Ragazzoni as my artist. My letterer is Taylor Esposito. My editor is Trevor Richardson, and my logo designer is Ryan Clark, and our colorist is Antone Interrera. I believe I pronounced that correctly. And yeah, we're here to promote the book. The book's coming out March 3rd, like I said, and it's been 3 years in the making. And we're very excited because not only do I get to talk to you and your audience, but you are a part of that in a real fun way. So, bearing technical difficulties, we can get into the meat of it once everything's kind of smooths out. How did I get into writing? So basically, in my previous job, I worked for the Walt Disney Corporation, and during that time, I was the non-traditional IP person for them. And what that means was I would kind of evaluate IP and potentially flip it to our streamers, our showrunners, writers, directors, etc. And I would review, hundreds of things, anywhere from video games, board games, anything in the geek space. And during that time, I told my boss, I was like, hey, I have this idea for a story. It's something I'm kind of craving. I'm not really seeing it in the books that I'm reading. Again, nothing against those books, but it was just I was craving something different. And so she's like, "Hey, you should write it down, and maybe you'll either forget about it or it might turn into something. You kind of just see what happens or comes of it." And so I was like, "Okay, cool." So I wrote it down, kind of forgot about it a little bit, and then Bob Iger, a few months later, said, "Hey, we're laying off 7,000 people and we're starting with your department." And I was like, "Oh crap, what am I going to do?" Because I had just kind of hit like a bucket list type of job, like to say you want to go into storytelling or entertainment and you get to work at United Talent Agency and then you get to work at the Walt Disney. It's kind of like, well, where do you go from here? And during that time, I had some reflection of like, hey, what am I going to do? Because it's like, well, crap, like everything's kind of been done in that regard. And then one of the things I thought of was there's actually two things I thought of. One, I wanted to marry my girlfriend, and the other one was I wanted to not have regrets about writing my own comic book because I had been fortunate enough in a position where I'd helped a lot of other people, signing people, getting their books optioned, and I was just like, if I'm gonna do it, like what better time than now? Like if I'm never going to do it if I don't do it now, basically. And so I kind of started fleshing out this idea of, Jason Aaron style, hard on your sleeve writing meets, the kinetic lines of Sean Murphy, but is blending the elements of like a Saturday morning cartoon and a Japanese anime, but it has to deal with brothers and family and, grief and loss. So yeah, that's kind of what it got. So I never had I'm going to be a writer one day. It was just one of those things where it's like, well, I have a lot of knowledge in the space and I kind of have some thoughts, and why don't I just do it? Because, what else am I going to do? Like like I said, I've been fortunate enough to get to this point. So I decided to kind of give it a shot. And here we are 3 years later, in the promotional phase of it. And it is, it's exciting, but also incredibly tiring because I've been lucky enough to, be able to promote through a lot of friends and outlets, and it's very exciting. So,
All right. So, how does one get over the
awesome.
fear of starting a project?
I don't think I have. I'm still feeling it. I'm definitely, working through that. I mean, I'll be completely honest. I Some days I am scared out of my mind. The others I'm just, I feel super confident in the pages that Simone's turned in. I mean, again, I have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to my teammates and collaborators. I mean, Simone turns two sentences into something that is just I'm speechless. I'm kind of lost for words because um it's way better than I could have hoped for. I mean, truthfully. So I think one way that's helped me get through this is that my collaborators definitely raise me up in a real way because they're all seasoned vets in a certain way, and I'm kind of the new person in the group. And so, I mean, truthfully, it's just there is no other option if I'm being very transparent and very open. Because again, well, what else am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, again, I could potentially get another job or I could, find something in outside of entertainment. But at the end of the day, I loved comics and I had kind of done all the things, but the actual writing of one. I mean, I was never going to be an artist. I never had that patience or skill set to to do that. So I just said, I'm going to try writing. And I hope that's not disrespectful to other writers. I just was like, I'm going to do it myself and just see what happens because this is all a gamble, right? Every creative endeavor is a chance that you're just hoping to stack the decks in your favor. So when it, goes live or gets released, it hopefully connects with people in a real big way.
You guys are so freaking awesome for being patient with me, and Chris is gonna hear, and afterwards, and hear that they could both hear us, I guess, basically.
So I definitely kind of have like the underdog mentality, and I do believe that is important. I mean, it started with sports. I was always kind of an athlete growing up. I was in track and field. I was in football, and specifically with track and field, I was a shot putter and hammer thrower. So, generally speaking, those athletes were 6'2", 6'7", 300 pounds, 250, genuinely big dudes, and I'm 5'10", and I was 260, and I walked in looking like a fire hydrant. You know what I mean? Like I had to overcome those obstacles. And so I had to either be stronger or faster or have a better technique. And so having this attitude of people saying like, well, you can't do that. It's like, oh, that's cute. You think you're a shot putter because you broke your high school record? That's great. You'll never make it in college. And then, I went to junior college, and then I was able to win the JUCO division state championship for shot put. And then they're like, oh, well, you'll never get a scholarship. And then I was lucky enough to get a scholarship at Cal State Long Beach. And then they're like, well, you'll never be a coach. And then I was like, okay, then I became a grad. And so I kind of just had this mentality of like, well, I'll just show you then. Like if you doubt me, that's perfectly fine, but I'm going to give you a stack of undeniable proof to be like, are you sure about that? And so to have this thing of like, when I bring this kind of mentality to comics as a first time creator, I have the belief that no one's going to do it for me. And I have to kind of rely on my friends like yourself or in the press or in the podcasting space to kind of get the word out there. But it's very much like, yeah, no one's going to come and save you. So if you really want to do this, you kind of have to, shed your ego and get in front of the camera and just be like, hey, talk about it, be open, be honest, be vulnerable, because I think that's the only way you can do it. So yeah, I definitely have that mentality of the, go get 'em spirit.
So someone asked, comics for life, if you could be given the ability to draw, which artist would you like to draw like? Okay, here you go. If you were...
Ooh, I heard that. I heard it. I heard that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's working, Chris.
Okay. Fingers crossed. Okay, if I could so let me make sure I got this correct. So if I could draw like anybody, who would it be? Is that correct?
Yeah. Who would you draw like?
Okay. Okay, so I'm not going to say Sia Oyam because that's a cop out. Let's see. I mean, in Sean Murphy we trust, right? I mean, the guy is a legend, and if I'm not going to say Sean or Simone, because again, I don't want to give out the obvious answers. Man, who's someone I really look to? I mean, Mike Mignola is great because of, Hellboy, obviously. I mean, I'm a big fan of his Lord Baltimore run. I know he didn't draw that per se, but his cover designs for the book were phenomenal. When it comes to like the big two or, big indie creators, I think Ivan Reyes is pretty good. Hyde Street is probably my favorite indie image book at the moment. Or if I had to go Marvel style, I guess, or Marvel books, I think Russell Dowderman's phenomenal. Ryan Stegman. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, it just depends, I guess, what type of story you're trying to convey. So
Hmm.
I guess it would depend on the mood if I was able to switch my personalities, but I think all of those artists are super talented.
I guess my follow up would be, have you tried drawing before at some point early
Yeah,
on?
when I was younger, I had a very rudimentary skill set, and I just realized I did not have the patience. I never could get the eyes right, and that always bothered me. I'm like, these just look like circles, you know what I mean? And I know they are, but they just never, it never spoke to me in a way I'm sure it does for you. And so I would doodle. I'm a very strong doodler, you know. But no, I never had I truly just never had the patience to sit down and be like, okay, how do you composite something? How do you design something? I mean, that's a whole skill set that I just never strive for, truthfully.
But I mean, what's so impressive about you and your team is the fact that you guys came together and you finished basically, and you have this team that worked together, and the book speaks for itself, where it is clearly cohesive. Whether it's story, the coloring, I'm sure the lettering. I'm going to see it later today, and the art. It's just like to be able to do that, to put that together. A lot of people do ask me, um, Doodly Don loves doodling too. Sorry, he was like, our fans are so awesome. But yeah, it's just the idea that you could do that. Like, what kind of planning went into? I know we have the fear of not finishing something, but to plan it and to get it done and get it this far without having any prior experience per se, working in comics as a writer or artist. I mean, how do you feel like that came together? I mean, your organizational skills are insane. So, can you explain how you got to that point?
Yeah. I think for me specifically, I wanted to be able to hold this comic and put it on my shelf more than anything. Like outside of, my girlfriend becoming my wife, truthfully, like my kind of life's mission was to say that I wanted to be able to look my dad in the eye and be like, hey, I am, for whatever it's worth to you, like your son is able to say he has no regrets in this life. And that's kind of like the motivating factor for me, at least, is that, again, it's kind of a broken record, but it was very much just like, I want to just get this done. I want to see this done. I believe in this story. I believe it's something, of quality. My team is obviously very, able to execute. And so truthfully, it was just showing up for not only Simone, but for myself. I mean, yes, there were days where like, this sucks. I hate this, banging my head against the wall. I do not want to do this. But at the end of the day, I knew it was going to get me to the end point, which is kind of this, being able to talk about it and publish it. And so truthfully, it was just, okay, one foot in front of the other. Some days are going to be good, some days are going to be bad. And I just have this belief that I'm going to finish this book because I want to see it on my shelf alongside, the Jason Aarons, the Sean Murphys, the Russell Doddermans, all of those people, because why not me? I mean, I know some people believe that there's gatekeepers in comics, and I don't think there is. I just think we have this thought that there is, but in truth, I don't think there is. Because if I could say anything, like I can say is that you can do this. It's just a matter of, are you going to let your excuses win over you, kind of a thing? Are you going to just give up? Because at the end of the day, like, you have to do it yourself. No one, again, no one's going to save you. So I think for me, it's just making sure that I believed in it and I believed in my team. And again, Simone was, to see the work that he's done. Again, I found him through Instagram because of his Power Rangers. I believe the series was New Dakin, the Ranger Slayer miniseries, and I knew he would crush the art, like the big kind of kinetic energy and splash pages. Like I knew that without question. But when I started handing him his scripts and seeing like the character choice acting and like the softer, quieter moments, I'm like, oh, wow. Like I really hope that we're able to kind of put this in, let's say the DC or Marvel people, or if I have to do it myself at conventions, not because of me, but because of him. Like this dude has worked so hard for so long, and I feel like he hasn't gotten his chance. And if I'm able to shine a light on him so he can then blow up, rightfully so, I would love that. And so again, it's just kind of being respectful of my teammates and my collaborators and be like, hey, we need to get this done because I said we would do this and we kind of have to. And one of the things is like Simone doesn't speak English. And so he's not able to join these kind of interview or, Zoom calls. And it's a bummer because I would love for him to be a part of it, but it kind of is what it is for this moment. I mean, who's to say he may not learn more English by the time second one or third one comes around and he's, able to jump on with us. But if my kind of cross to bear is to be a champion of his, I mean, please, happy to do so. And so I think that's kind of also the additional through line is like I want to make sure that my teammates, I'm a man of my word, and if I can build that with them, I kind of have to keep myself accountable. So
And working with you, even though brief, on my book, because it was pretty, the pacing was just like, let's go do this. You and I are just like, yeah, let's go
yeah,
do this. Like, oh shoot, now we gotta go do this. But honestly
yeah,
speaking, if it wasn't for your words, like, hey, if you need me to take the floaties off of you and then get you going, let's do it. And we just kind of had that same vibe going with just getting after it, and I think that's so important.
yeah.
Sometimes you do it first and then think later in a way, and I feel like that's how you get a lot of
Hmm.
these really big projects done, like granted, you have to be a little bit more careful about like not spending too much time and money on stuff, but I think that inherently you already know if you're going to do something like that, what goes into it is going to be a lot, but you just have to take all the nerves off and do it. I mean, in all fairness, that's kind of how this whole podcast thing happened with live. I'm like, well, I learned about it, but learning about it on the internet and actually doing it are two completely different things, as you know.
Yeah.
And so I think you just have to get those nerves out of there. So all that said, obviously you got Sean Murphy's variant cover. I mean, that's like him and I mean, sorry, you and I love his art, and it
Hmm.
inspired us. And so I found the cover I did for you. It's kind of bright,
Aw.
but yeah. So this is the actual piece, and of course, it was inspired a lot by Sean's inks and stuff. And so I figured maybe I'd show you guys the variant cover that we did. I mean, like over a year ago, right? Basically.
Yeah, I think it's actually 2024, so almost 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
That's how long this whole process been.
yeah, but still, here we are, right? So this book looks great. I'm gonna put a link to. I think I already have it in the description for the pre-launch page, right? So they can see
Mhm.
everything that. So everything I see on the pre-launch page is basically what they can see. I'm assuming. Um,
Yes.
so okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be basically the blurb from Stephen Meta, who was very kind to kind of read our book and give us that, amazing quote. Because, as you know, when you try and build a campaign and you try and, find ways to make it feel like the backers can trust you as a potentially as a creator, but also a first time creator. I mean, we are very intentional with how we kind of, I don't want to say stack the deck, but just we really wanted to make it feel like if someone wanted to take a chance on us, that they could trust us with their money. Because again, no shade to any other creators on Kickstarter, but sometimes campaigns run long, sometimes campaigns are delayed or not even fulfill. And so we very much wanted to be like, hey, if you want to take a chance on us, we kind of have all these things in place. I mean, when it comes to our book, it's very much inspired by anime and manga and Saturday morning cartoons and American comics. Who's that person at this moment in time that could be kind of that, evangelist for us? And luckily, I was able to find a way to connect with Steven, and I sent him the book, and he said what he said, which was very kind of him. And then, yeah, there's a video of kind of like a splash video ad on the page as well, which kind of infuses more of like the musical energy, because we did believe that when we were crafting this, that we had kind of like a metalcore, fast-paced, kinetic energy, and so we infused that into the video. And then, yeah, you saw the comic preview pages, I'm sure, that you just went through, and then the artist edition. And that's the one thing we're super excited about. So as you said, we're offering Sean Murphy's black and white. That is going to be the only version of that you can obtain is the artist edition. So if you want Sean's work, or if you want those black and whites, you have to get the artist edition. And we're also going to be having Simone's kind of halftones on full display. Again, we're inspired by manga. We're not hiding from it. So we really wanted to just be like, hey, could we do an homage that wasn't, culturally appropriating or just, taking from them in a way. So we just figured, oh, let's try it in great, halftones, gray tones, or grayscale, however he calls it. So yeah, and then once the campaign goes live, they'll be able to see kind of all the variant covers we have, as you just said, from all those artists. And then for those who are really into commissions or pages, original art, Simone is actually going to be opening up his commissions list for our Kickstarter.
Nice.
We may even have some color options down the road, and he's also going to be for the bigger tiers. So there's a page on the preview page where Marcus is going to the Crave, which is our K-Rave. And he's going to be selling that. And then there is a spoiler page. And this is one where I'm very interested to see what happens, because, again, it is a moment in the book that is the big reveal or the big kind of climax shot. And I don't know if I'm going to regret selling it, but Simone's like, we're doing it. And I'm like, oh, okay, so we're not going to reveal what the page looks like because it is going to,
Spoiler.
spoil everything. And so we're just be like, if you really want to give us a shot and you believe in the project and you're like, yeah, this is cool. And so, okay, cool, here you go. And then the last, and I'd say biggest here, depending on how things go, is Simone's actually going to be selling his cover. So
Nice. Nice.
if you really want a piece of Simone's work, or an integral piece of our story, you can have that as well. So
I don't think we talked specifically about the story yet, right? Just like a quick, not
yeah,
elevator pitch, because that makes me nervous when I say elevator pitch for myself. Like, I can't do it. I'm still not good at it yet. I think so. To be
yeah.
fair, Chris helped me with my elevator pitch for Neo Wonderland because I was just like throwing spaghettis at the wall, and I was like, okay, let's figure this out. And so I want to hear Chris. I want to hear Chris do his elevator pitch.
Okay, yeah. So my elevator pitch, without reading anything, this is just off the top. So Marcus Walker Kingslayer Protocol is a 48-page comic, and it is ideal fit for fans of Ultraman Rising, Big Hero 6, and Power Rangers. And again, to kind of recirculate and reinforce what I said, is very much, a story where, I mean, as you probably know, many mech stories, the hero is usually the pilot of the story, generally speaking. And this time we want to do something different. Marcus is not the pilot of the story. Marcus is the little brother of the pilot. And Marcus may not even be, the main, he may not be the hero. He's the main character, but he may not be the hero of the story, because we know, there's like the whole main hero syndrome nowadays. And so
Mm-hmm.
with mechs and kaiju stories, we're really understanding that there's so many great stories, and they've already kind of covered that, the mechs or the kaijus came to Earth, or the mechs were sent down from space. And we're like, we're not going to take that route. A lot of things have done that. The Gundams, Evangelions, they've done it great. I don't need to try and rehash or compete with them by any stretch of the imagination. So what can we do different? And so we're like, why don't we set our story around the families, the people the civilians who kind of live in this world? Like, how would New Honolulu City, how would Hawaii look if it was kind of a bustling city that is actually thriving but is being destroyed constantly by these kind of, monsters or machines? And we just kind of took that and ran with it in the coolest way. I mean, for example, I said the K rave, and so when I wrote it, it was kaiju rave. We're like, people are going to go to dancing, right? Or they want to go out and explore and have a good time. But then he drew it as crave, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because what do people do when they go out at night? They crave, attention. They crave thrill seeking. They crave, the nightlife. And I'm like, that's a wonderful little, like happy accident. So we just went with it, and now it's the
Nice.
crave. And so we have certain scenes in the book that feel like, oh, you could relate to Marcus, or you're like, oh, that's just like me. Because the first time you meet Marcus, he's at the train station and he's going through his phone, and it's like, oh, there's a news feed of the world being destroyed. There's a podcast of people commentating on it. Here's a commercial, and then here's like a crazy cat video with like a face filter on it. And so we were very intentional of like, we want this to feel like if you lived on an island, or not even an island, but you just felt like this was kind of like, a friend or a neighbor. It could have been you, so to speak. And so again, the creative swing was, our story is not about a mech pilot, and he may not even feel like the hero of his own journey. And so that's kind of the story elevator pitch, a little more expanded. So
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't totally elevator pitch that thing, because then it's just like, because then there's
yeah.
no infliction in certain areas that you need to pause and kind of explain a little bit. So that's awesome, and the art obviously goes really along really well with the story. And I actually like that idea. I think what you and I had in common with our story was, yeah, it's cyberpunk kind of futuristic, but there's like that anchor that you're anchored towards the brothers, basically, and the main characters of the story. And that's kind of how I wrote my story too. It's like, at first it was one, the other guy was the main character, and all of a sudden I'm like, but I think if fans had to pick, and they probably will, like between the two brothers, whatever, and the main characters, who their favorites are. So when you were writing the two characters, basically, did you purposely kind of write them a certain way, or did you as you started to write their story arc, you started to gravitate towards writing them a certain way because they basically became their own person?
Mhm.
Like, which approach do you think you took?
I think I just wrote it as honestly as I could, because I think when I started out, I was very much Caleb when I wrote it. Like, I'm the older brother, I'm writing the older brother, I'm writing him from his perspective. But as then time went on and we kind of developed it more and started really, wrestling with the themes of it, it was like, to kind of go back, to give you more context, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. She lost her battle 10 years ago. And during that time, me and my brother, had a real, I don't want to air out our dirty laundry by any means, but, we just had different ways of dealing with grief. And so during that time, as the older brother, is like, am I doing the right thing? Was he right? Was I wrong? And so, with kind of some reflection, I tried to put that into the book a little bit of just like, this older brother wants to protect his little brother, but he also doesn't want to like smother him. You know what I mean? And so it's just that dynamic of trying to figure out how to balance that and do it in a way that's entertaining. So again, to circle back to your question, I definitely was Caleb. But then when I started having those thoughts with Simone and really kind of working it out, I kind of saw myself as Marcus because, he's going through this journey and he's going through his trials and tribulations. And I'm kind of doing that with my own writing journey. And so and then when we finally got done with it, it was just me and Simone, if that makes sense. Like, yes, we wrote it, but then once he put the kind of in the character choice acting and the page layouts, it just became its own thing. And I'm like, oh, these are their own characters now. I don't think of them as parts of, this is strictly my mindset and things like that. It's me and Simone now. And so I hope that answers the question.
Dude, that's such a good way to put it. Because at some point, yeah, I think we do draw from our own experience, and then probably also from people that we look up to, or media that we've taken in. But at some point, I think it does kind of take off like a plane on its own. I'm assuming that's kind of what you're saying, because of course I started out with my own experiences too, and every once in a while you do kind of draw from that again, because you need a certain emotional beat in the story. But yeah, I think so. A lot of people are asking like, are you when you're stumped on a story, you keep working it. It's like, do you have any stories that you are stumped by but are forever working on it? That's always I guess you call it writer's block. I mean, I'm sure you run into it. So do you know how you either A, work through it, or B, is there such a thing, or what's causing the writer's block basically?
Well, let me tell you, as a first-time writer, I
Don't
mean,
pontificate. I'm just
truthfully,
joking.
yeah, no, 100%. Because I'm like, I'm not that person by any stretch of the mat. I mean, honestly, if I got stuck on something and I really needed to figure out, I would just go for a walk. I mean, try and disconnect as much as I can. I am someone who, I'm sure, like many people, I'm face to the screen, and you're just like, God, I need to just get away from this. And so I'm lucky enough to live part-time in Quebec, so I'm able to kind of go out into the forest and wander and just take out my headphones and just be with nature in that regard. And so I think for me specifically, just to give you an honest answer, is just get off computer, like go live life. Stop thinking about it, because I'll at least speak for my own personal experience. When I stop thinking about it and I just let my mind kind of wander, I end up figuring it out in some capacity, whether it's the music I listen to or just kind of thinking about it and kind of it's kind of like meditation of it at all. So, I mean, that's the honest answer. I mean, other stories right now, it's just outside of Marcus, it's just giving it the attention it deserves, I feel. And that's been my experience, because if you let it cook for long enough, I feel like you can kind of figure the answer out. I don't
I
know. What do you think? I'm gonna flip it on you. What do you think?
I obviously that's true, because I waited 20 years, and I let it cook for a very long time. At this point, I probably have like franchise chains of my story. Like just cooking it for so long, like a cheeseburger. But you definitely need. But luckily, I did Lola. But see, here's the thing: is like when I did Lola XOXO, that one was like immediate. I think it's because I was playing all these
Mhm.
post-apocalyptic games, and just where I started, and like my excitement with doing like really gritty looking artwork. So it was perfect timing, and I felt like after I was done with that, and I did a lot of other books in between, whether it was Fathom or working with my friends, I think I wanted the story to look a certain way and feel a certain way that I knew I wasn't ready at the time. Every time I'd go back to working on it. So yeah, sometimes you have to let it cook, and sometimes you have to have something else in the works. But at the same time, like, I guess that's the question, is like, how, I mean, we all have different stories, right? So
Mhm.
if people really want it bad, do you think, I mean, how do you jump on something? I mean, is it when you want it really bad, whatever story's in front of you, just go with it? Or is it like try to dig for something else that you just want to get something out there, I guess, right? like the
Yeah, I
like
think
yeah, like how do you
I
get from idea to actually executing, like what brings us to that point?
I think you have to just drag yourself to however you write, whether it's your notes app, whether it's a pad and a pen and a pad, or a computer, or even voice memos. I think you just kind of have to find a way, whatever your way into it is, just do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for me, half the time I wrote Marcus, I would be in the gym or in yoga. So what I would do, my yoga instructor would give me so much crap because he or she would be like, "Why do you look so pissed off during class? This is supposed to be a happy time." And I'm just like, I'm just thinking in my head, which I know I'm not supposed to do. I'm supposed to be breathing, being in the moment. I'm doing the
Yeah.
exact opposite thing. I'm actually like writing in my head. I'm like, "Ooh, that's a good spot." And I'm just like, "Okay, now we go to eagle pose." And I'm like, "All right, I should be present." Um, and so yeah, I think it's just figuring out what works best for you. I mean, I'll be doing reps and sets, and the next thing you know, I'm like, "Ooh, that's a great idea," and I'll just write it down so I don't forget it. And and then over time, I have like thousands of note tabs, and I just, okay, I'm gonna highlight them all, put them in a Word docket, and just, okay, what makes sense, basically bullet pointed out. Okay, if there was like a almost like a flashcards or index, it's like, okay,
Save,
this would
yeah.
go here,
Hmm.
this would go here, this would go here. All right, now how do I flesh it out? Okay, I have, like, let's say 20 beats, I have 20 pages. Is it one per page? Is it maybe, you combine two to make a splash page or whatever? So it's a very rudimentary way of doing it, but for me, that's kind of how I started out as a
Hmm.
first timer.
So you're saying you literally have note cards on paper, right? It's not just computer. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
I've had some for sure.
Yeah, and I think it was it Save the Cat, or which book was it, that kind of beginner screenwriting book that talks about the note cards, and I know Francis
Save the cat for
Manifold. Yeah, it was Save the Cat, right? You guys, if you want beginning writing and the cover's cute, it is literally a cat with a white background. That's how you start. I think it's note cards. Note cards gets your mind to physically kind of think about how it's going to look, especially for me because I'm an artist. I kind of need to physically see it. And whenever I start writing on the computer and I didn't have the physical touch of writing it on paper and jotting it down, it just doesn't, I feel like I get stuck. So that's just me personally. I don't know. I mean, you sound
Mhm.
like that's what you also prefer as well, is like the physical aspect of looking at your story, writing it down, and seeing it, I guess. It's like
Yeah,
manifesting it,
and
right?
and of course, and another author that would be a great way of who does this is Ryan Holiday. He's a big Stoicism writer,
Mm-hmm.
philosopher, and
Mm-hmm.
his books. I mean, he has card catalogs of just cards of how he does his books. So his books are just note cards, note cards, note cards, then puts them on pages, and then takes the pages and expands upon them. So yeah, that's another one who does it with success.
Well, John recently started to read Ryan Holiday's book. The one thing that I guess he got really hooked on was one phrase, and I agree with this completely. It's the obstacle is the way. Like, don't go around an obstacle,
Hmm.
go right through it and find a way. Explain more recently, especially because now your Kickstarter is happening very soon. Like, what is the obstacle and how do you get through it, not around it? Like, what does getting around it look like versus what going through it would look like? I guess. What's the
Yeah.
inherent reaction to that kind of thing? Like, do you want
Yeah,
to go around it?
my gut instinct to how it pertains to Marcus is that if I wanted to go around it, I would have settled a lot sooner with what the book potentially could have been. I mean, we were lucky enough to be with a former publisher, and it just didn't work out, and we really believed in it. And again, it was just trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Like, it just, as much as we wanted it to work, it just wasn't, because we were trying to match the cadence of potentially a monthly release, and we were like, you know what, it is, again, no shade to anybody, but it's just, this version is doing a disservice to our story. And so we quickly realized that we wanted to do something different. And so, and it, we had that hard conversation of like, are we about to separate from a publisher that we respect and, take even longer to get this book out? And we decided, yeah, we're gonna go the long route. We're gonna do it ourselves, and go through the problem. And that is, we're gonna make sure we're gonna put out the story we want to tell. And if it takes 2 3 years to do it, so be it. I mean, one where I can give you a peek behind the curtain without putting anyone in a bad light. One of the things I had to struggle with multiple people is, you shouldn't do a name book, because naming something like a name doesn't mean anything, because the association. They're like, well, Walker means like Texas Ranger. Like people are thinking it's a Western. And I'm like, okay, well, my book is not a traditional mech book, right? My hero is not the pilot. So I can't call it like ultra something or, robot something, because even though it does feature that is a part of our world, that is not what the story's about. So my gut feeling was I always clashed up against it because it is about Marcus Walker and how he interacts with this thing that is called the Kingslayer Protocol and how it affects him, because his family is a part of it. His brother is the pilot. His dad runs the program. And so for me, when I named it, it was very much like these are the two parts of the story. And yes, they are kind of at odds with each other. But if you put them together, at least in my head, it encompasses what the story was. And so that was one of the things where it's like, we're not changing it. Like it is what it is. Because if I changed it and it failed, I would have had to live that. Me and Simone would have had to live with that failure, and it had been something named whatever else. So as long as it's named Marcus Walker Kingslayer Protocol, and it doesn't work for whatever reason, let's say, I can at least hang my hat up high and be like, or hang my head up high, excuse me, and be like, yep, I'm cool with it because it's exactly the version we wanted to make. So that, I guess, to answer your question is we took the long. By taking the long route of doing it ourselves was actually the way through. And so that's why now, we're able to build all of this. I mean, like the fact is we got these covers, yourself included. We got the Steve Maida quote. We did all these things with press. Like that is me and Simone. Like we did all that. And I don't want it to sound weird, but it's like, we get that credit, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to say like, oh, we deserve that credit. That's not, but I'm just saying like, we are trying to build this buzz and this kind of, press campaign. And it's like, we want that to be reflective of the work we've done. And so, yeah, I hope that answers the question. And I have, not to pivot too hard, but another book I could, that would make sense for this. And it's Ryan Holiday, is called Perennial Bestseller, or Perennial Seller rather. And it's basically, how does a book sell over time? I mean, yes, it's usually in print for a very long time, but you have two marathons. You build the thing and then you have to market the thing. And I use that as almost like a guide, truthfully, between, making Marcus, promoting Marcus. It's like, what are the books that mean, that stand the test of time? And it's usually, has to deal with human emotions or stories, love, loss, anger, grief, revenge, those kinds of things. And so we use that to kind of tie it all together to kind of get us through to this point. So I highly recommend, if anybody wants a good book to read, not to give out homework, but Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday is a great book to kind of learn from. Because then when you read those books, then you check out how his writing style is. You look at all his examples. Like there's a thing called, I think it's called Raving Fans or Little Monsters, where he references Lady Gaga, and she has a huge fan base and a huge community. And it's like, how did she build it? And she's like, I didn't want to be like the next Madonna. I want to be the next Iron Maiden, because they built a fan base that is, very ravenous, and like they make things for that fan. And so she kind of kept that model. And so, yeah, those are examples of like potentially how to build something in that way, in a real way.
And I think it's interesting because comic books it's a visual medium, and we know that you should have a good story at least. I mean, but to get eyeballs on a writer and becoming a writer, I feel like it's so much harder in comics, especially than an artist like myself, because it's so visual. So the question you can imagine, the one I get the most is, how do you get people to read your work or get professional work or get your work out there to be part of a book or to get your book out there? I mean, how would you do it now in 2026, I guess, as a writer?
Well, that's a wonderful question. I think, what's the story behind the story? And I basically have to, if I'm putting my marketing hat on and I'm trying to answer your question honestly, I have to be able to tell my story in a way that is informative and also, entertaining in a way. I guess that would be. I mean, I don't want to be like full on Stan Lee or Kevin Smith, because like, they're very like over the top and kind of, showboaty in a very respectful and fun way. But it's very much like, okay, you don't know who I am, so I have to tell you who I am in a way that is direct, concise, and it makes sense, and hopefully makes you feel like you understand where I'm coming from and what I'm asking from you. And so to basically say, I had to live a life outside of writing to then be able to write, I feel. I had to go through track and field, entertainment, those failures, not failures, but just they didn't work out. And
Mhm.
so I basically had to learn all those things to then inform what I'm doing now. And so that's how I was kind of able to do this kind of little press tour, I guess, whatever you want to call it, or press push, because I learned with Keith and with you, and the template I gave you is the exact one I'm using. I'm just trying to see how we can make it better. So when you do Neo Wonderland 2 or Keith does the next book, we can then, okay, this is what I figured out worked for me best. Now let's see how it works for you. I mean, again, case in point, someone told me, metals are not the best thing to use sometimes because of potential shipping or weight. And I'm like, cool. I don't usually buy those, so I'm not going to ask my, potential backers to do that. And so it's all learning. And so if I could basically sell myself that isn't too salesy, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like I want you to just hang out with me and see if you like who I am, because if you like who I am, chances are you'll probably like the book, because also I believe in Simone and it's a visual medium, and my two sentences look way better in his hands and how he designed it and drew it. So I think it's just being vulnerable and like being honest. Like, again, I'm not going to come on to your channel and tell like this is how I think writing should be done. No, like I'm a first time writer.
Mhm.
I've been in the business for like 7 8 years, in the background, and so I've just seen it done this way. And so I had the time to kind of prep and kind of put it all on pen and paper to be able to kind of refine it over time. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't like this happened in a year. You know what I mean? Like, it took a while to get to this point. And so I'm being long winded, but I guess the best way to answer it is just being vulnerable and just, having a story to tell about the story.
Yeah, exactly. I think even with like a piece of art, it's not just the art itself; it's also the story behind it. Whether it's a Da Vinci or a Picasso or a Van Gogh, and in modern times, there's plenty of artists who there is a story behind the story. Whether it's the creation, the artists themselves, but there's a full package. I feel like that you put together in a sense. I guess that's how I would put it. So nowadays with social media and now we have AI to contend with, I feel like my personal opinion is like the human connection now and the stories behind the things being made, especially art. I think is very important. I don't know if you how you what your philosophy on that is, but because they're
I mean,
gonna keep having
100%.
new social media and you're gonna have more and more AI regardless, and so there's got to be something that grounds, I guess, all art forms at this point. But do you have like a philosophy, I guess, on the fear of AI taking over jobs, or I mean creative jobs, I should say more specifically, or what's your
I
outlook?
mean, I mean, to be completely fair, like I don't think it's gonna overtake real art, truthfully. I feel like it's probably gonna be a tool, kind of how it is now. Like I don't think it is not gonna be able to feel. I mean, this is just me thinking right now in 2026. I don't think it's gonna be able to feel the real core elements of what it is to be human. It may try, but it's not human. It's not, I mean, you know what I mean? It is artificial. I know it's a very obvious answer, but have you felt death? Have you felt the loss of of your first love? Have you had your first kiss, or have you tried to get a job and not had it? Like, AI doesn't have those experiences. So I don't think it's going to take over jobs. I mean, it'll streamline some things, unfortunately, it'll make some jobs obsolete, unfortunately, but I don't know if I don't know if the sky's falling just yet. I mean, I could be wrong, and I'm sure I'm sure Skynet's listening it right now, and they're like, okay, we're gonna keep tabs. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just being honest. I haven't really given too much thought because I don't think at the end of the day it's going to take over what really matters, which is the human connection. Because yes, there'll be other social media things, but it only matters because of the human elements, I feel.
Oh,
And like that's how I was able to kind of like push and do all these things, because these are my friends. Like, the reason I'm able to talk, and do all this stuff is because I've done the work of trying to make the right friends, and not to sound kind of cold about it or methodical about it, but it's just like, okay, how do you do that? Well, you learn like who are the cool people on the internet, who are the press people you should talk to, and just find a way to make, again, to kind of go back to the previous thing, like just make yourself feel like it's easy for them to do their job, because their job is to kind of get cool information out or to get the next hot thing out. And it's like, if you think you're that, position in a way where it's easy for them to just do it. If you're going to ask them to do something for you, that person may have 1,000 requests, but if, like, for example, I'll give you a thought is, when I reached out to press people, I made sure I had like a press release. I made sure I had like the pre-save campaign. Like, I had basically a press kit for them. So all they had to do was copy and paste, and like, boom, their job's done. Like, I didn't make it harder for them. And the great thing is, they'd be like, "Oh, thank you so much for thinking about that." And it's like, well, yeah, you're a human being, and you have a family potentially, or a job, or whatever going on that I don't know about, because that's life. And so, trying my best to think of other people as best I could during this process. And I don't know if AI can do that.
I
So,
agree. And I don't know if you could see, because I don't know if you have the live stream window open on YouTube, because I see people's questions,
no.
I see people's comments. World at War Comics, what's up? He said hi a while ago. He's like, "What's up, Chris and Sia?"
What's up, Thomas?
I mean, usually what I do at the end is I scroll down and I say bye and hi to everybody. But I mean, this is
Yeah.
such a great conversation, so I don't want to take the floor
No,
away
I
from
mean,
that. But yeah, it's pretty awesome.
no, whenever you want to take questions, whatever. I appreciate your questions, because they're different and they're unique, and there's also like a genuine respect. I mean, we've worked together. We've
Hmm.
known each other now for at least 3 or 4 years, it feels like. So,
Hmm.
no, I'm happy to just roll with the punches.
No, I'm so glad. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. Chris has to be the first. I mean, I don't want to call you a guinea pig, but I do think guinea pigs are cute.
Ah,
But
it is. Yeah,
but
yeah.
I feel like it worked out okay because, honestly speaking, I think I trust you. I have faith in what you're doing, and like rolling with the punches. It's not just for this live stream, but just in general as an artist, and also being introduced to all this AI stuff. And I think I kind of like brushed it off in a way where I was like, I know it's gonna cause a lot of chaos, but there's a lot of faith in myself, and then also people who really care about what they do. I know it sounds kind of cold in some ways, like you're saying, but at the same time, it's just important to keep yourself grounded and realize like you have one advantage that AI will never have, and that is you're human. You have the human experience, and that's what other humans crave and want. At the very least, I could say that about art and people who really want to make it as an artist. So, um,
And
yeah.
just to add on to that, just to put a nice little cherry on top, I think Ben Affleck said it. I saw a clip of it, and he said it really eloquently. And I'm probably going to butcher it, but I'm going to try. And it was what I took. Well, I'll say what I took from that was, he basically said AI is the means of everything, right? It never stays on the edges. And what's the best part of the stories? Wherein the story doesn't feel like it's rounded off, and it's just kind of this perfect thing. Like, some of the stories we love are the ones that aren't perfect. They're the ones that kind of have that kind of rough around the edges. Those are the things that we actually appreciate about the thing, because you know to use another example, some bands don't want to know what their fans favorite music is track is from a new album, because it's like, they're like, "Oh my god, I love this song." They're like, "Oh, I hate that song." You know what I mean? But that's the human element, because they just, "Oh, it's different because, oh, that song took us forever to record, or it just didn't come out how we expected." But that fan loves it because it's different, or it's unique, because they maybe went to the extremes of their personality or their creativity. And I don't think AI can do that, because AI doesn't live on the ends of that creative spectrum. It lives on the medium
Yeah,
of
because what they
everything.
did
So it's
is
kind
took
of,
everything and whirled it into a little circle, and now they're just pulling from everything, and that becomes, like I said, it's very chaotic, and
yeah.
the reason why we love art is because it's humans, and I think I mentioned this a couple of times in my live stream. Like, we want to watch soccer players that are human playing against each other. Imagine if it was just a bunch of robots. No shade to mechs or robots, but it's gonna be
Yeah.
like there's no human. What is it? What am I? There's no human sacrifice, or there's no loss or
Hmm.
sense of the word escapes me. The reason why, like the Uncanny Valley and CG movies, there's no risk of death or whatever or loss.
Yep.
Whereas when it's human, you're there watching it because you can lose, you could die, you could just the sense of loss and joy, knowing that, well, if that person's happy or that whole thing happened, you can relate to it, or I can feel that way too. Imagine if I
Yeah.
was prompting like at the beginning, and I'm chatting with you, and you're like an AI bot. I'm like, so I'm talking to my writer friend here, and I have to type in some prompts, and then Chris is gonna tell me exactly how it's like to
Yeah.
be a writer, and it's gonna give me feedback from a writer who's been writing for like 50 years versus someone who's finally started writing, and now he has his own journey where it would be a lot easier for people to relate to you, and you could teach them something versus Stephen King, for example. Like, try to have him dig out from like his 50, 60 years of writing how to give you feedback. He's probably just going to say, oh, you know what? Just write. It's like, okay, that's great. On a typewriter?
Yeah.
I mean, what are we talking here?
Yeah. I mean, the book on writing literally just says show up, write, and that's it. Like that's
That's
pretty much
wonderful.
on writing what is. Yeah.
Uncensored nerds, where's my invite? LOL joking. He's not joking. He's serious.
Uh oh, Tim. I'm sorry, buddy.
We could barely get two of us to work and function correctly, let alone like me adding all this stuff. It's like, oh man, my computer's just gonna explode. But this was a great learning experience. I'm gonna go figure all this out, and knowing me, I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna do some editing and have it so that we have two different versions of it. We want to leave, like you said, the
Sure.
rough around the edges, and then I want to have one where it's like super pretty and stuff. And it's just like, if you guys want to get something out of it, that would be. Oh wait, someone just said.
Yeah.
So John Brown just said, Artist Alley would be pretty boring if it was just AI. Let's picture that. Yeah, everybody would have the same art, right?
Yeah.
Man. So
Yeah.
um,
It would be terrible.
we could sit here and talk forever. So is there anything you wanted to add before we close this out? And then, like I said, I'm going to put the link to the Kickstarter, and also we're going to collab on our YouTube channel, so you guys could go check out Chris's YouTube as well and make it super simple, to get a hold of everybody.
Yeah.
So
So, some things I can say just to wrap up. We will. So, me and Simone, we will be at MegaCon Orlando. So, if anyone wants to come see us in person,
Mega
we'll be there.
nice.
And then we're going to be doing an ash can. I think it's going to be an artist edition ash can with Sean Murphy's cover. So, if anyone wants to come by or and support and check it out, we'll be selling those. And I guess if I had to finish it out, I just want to say thank you. I know this was a test kind of run, but truly, it is not lost on me that you have built something over your career, and the fact that you were kind enough to share it with me and giving me the opportunity to talk about my book with Simone and my team. I'm very grateful, because again, to kind of circle back, it is the human connection, and to have a business collaborator and a friend to give me my time in the sun when I don't feel like I deserve it. I just want to say to you and your listenership, your viewership, your audience, thank you, because it really does mean a lot to me, because you are someone that I hope to strive to be. If when I'm at that point in my career, I could help bring other people up, kind of how you've shown me that same kindness. I just really appreciate it. So thank you, Sia.
Oh man, thank you so much. I almost cried again. Remember when I cried on camera when I got my Kickstarter? And then
I do, because me and Mary Lee's were at a bar watching your live stream because we were so excited for you. We were having drinks, and then when you fully funded in 15 minutes, we were like, "Woo, shots!"
I know. And you texted me right away, and I was on camera saying, "Oh look, my team is texting me," and I was like, so happy. So I'm getting the feelings back again. I can't wait for you to do it, and it's really fun to actually, you and I doing it one after another, and like we get to bounce ideas off each other. I mean, really, ultimately, I think we're trying to build some really solid foundation, not just for our own books and our own IP, but for the industry in general. We talk about this all the time. Like, it's not good enough just to have a project, get paid for it. It's nice, but I want to be a part of building something bigger and newer, because it's changing so quickly right now that it's really important to just have something to look forward to, and then also kind of giving back, to the people that supported us and everything, and whether it be professionals or fans. But like, that's kind of where I'm at with that, and I'm sure you're the same way. And it keeps you going when
I
it's like
mean,
really hard things you got to deal with. You know what I mean? Constantly.
yeah. I think just being able to build your own thing, because then no one can take it away from you. Like, if you're able to build your own audience, your own business, and all those things, like, you're kind of good. I think, what is it? If you have 1,000 paying fans, you're good, or something like that.
Yeah,
So
like it's just,
if you can
that's all
just
you
work
need.
work your way to that, you're good. And so that's what we're trying to do here, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're all about it. Like, I mean, yeah, exactly. So, all right, Chris. I apologize for my. I thought everything works well, but tech is always like that, and so we'll figure it out next time. And
Oh, no
obviously,
worries.
when you're done, if you want to come back on and tell us your experience after that, I feel like it's kind of cool to have a follow up with this kind of stuff,
Oh,
especially.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm definitely open to doing a post Kickstarter recap, because I'm sure I will learn things along the way and be happy to share with you and with your audience. No problem.
Awesome. Well, I guess I could. I guess
I'll
I
hop
could.
off.
Yeah, you could probably hop off, and then I'll try to like I'll try to fix what I'm
Okay.
doing here, and then
All
all
right.
right, you guys go
Thank you
home.
again, guys. Appreciate it. Of
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. I'll talk to you soon.
course. All right.
Bye.
Bye.